Yo, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. We got a bit of a different video, as you can see. We got the USA map. And this is going to be a short one, but recently I saw a video about this guy talking about the Midwest, and I've also just seen other videos about people, like, breaking down the USA into regions, and I certainly agree that there are regions. But I am from the Midwest, and the video about the Midwest was from a British person, so, yeah, it didn't really, definitely was not knowledgeable about it at all. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to have some fun because, everyone is different and they're all going to have our own opinions on what we think the Midwest is and the other regions of the U.S. And there are some parts that I haven't been to and some parts that I have been to. So I'm just going to colorize every state that I think goes in another group with each other state. So, yeah, I guess let's just get right into it. Let's just go from left to right, starting with the Pacific Northwest, and I mean, it's really just these two. You could put in a bit of Idaho, but I think no. It's really only Oregon and Washington, and, yeah, I mean, I've been here only when it was super little. I don't know much about it, but I do know some about it. It's, Cascadia and all that, but I think this is basically just probably one of the smallest regions in terms of number of states. But definitely fairly big region, and yeah, that's what we're starting with. Now for this next region, I think they're all fairly similar in that they are all pretty hot, pretty deserty because of the Rocky Mountains. I don't know much about New Mexico, but I'm going to put them in here because I don't really know where else they would go. And they all have at least one big city, Albuquerque, Phoenix, Nevada, and California is just crapload of big cities and weird people. So I think it makes sense to just have all of these guys together. And next up, we got Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Very big region with quite a few states. And I think this one definitely makes sense. I'm going to call it like the mountain region, I guess, because it's all pretty much entirely in the Rocky Mountains. The east bits aren't really, and it also kind of spills over with Utah because of just how diverse Utah is. I mean, Utah is kind of crazy how diverse it is. But yeah, I think this one, it definitely makes a lot of sense. They're all pretty dang similar. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Of course, the east side of all of them kind of go into the plains, but they're all pretty dang similar. And next up, I'm just going to give Alaska and Hawaii their own colors, because they're really just so different from all of the other states, and so different from each other, that they're really just their own regions. I'm not going to put them in the same region, because they're so far apart, and really not similar at all. Yeah, that's also happening here real quick. And next up, we got the South. I really think this should be more divided up, but that just gets so hard to do, because I was going to put, like, Texas and Louisiana in their own things, because they got pretty dang big cities. But then you also got Florida over here. And, I mean, Alabama, Mississippi, very, very poor states. And then also, South Carolina could also go in that as well. But North Carolina, they're growing rapidly. So South Carolina also is as well. And then Tennessee kind of falls on the border between, South and not South, I guess, and then Arkansas. I don't really know much about Arkansas, but I'm just going to put it down here as well, and yeah, I really don't know. I really do want to put Texas in something else, because it's really, we're just talking about, like, this part of Texas, not this part of Texas, but I mean, no one lives in this part of Texas, so I guess no one's going to care, so yeah, I guess this is just the South then, I guess. And next up, we got what I'm going to call the Prairie States. These are I'd say probably sub-region of the Midwest, excluding Oklahoma. I just wanted to put Oklahoma in here as well because half of the state is Native Americans and their own nations. And then we just got Oklahoma City, and it's all just in a big prairie. And then also, Missouri. All of these, when you think of any of these states, the Dakotas, Kansas, Nebraska, you think of prairies and corn and fields and all that. And I don't know that much about North Dakota, but I think it probably has, like, forests at the top because it's north enough. But I think a pretty good region of the U.S., like a sub-region of the Midwest, I would say. Now, this region is of the U.S. is what I would probably like to consider the deep Midwest, or some sort of that version of Midwest. And I actually live here. I live right in the middle, and right in Wisconsin, and I think this more clearly defines what the Midwest is. I think Minnesota and Michigan and Wisconsin, especially up north, are very, very forested. And there's some good bluffs, like in the middle of Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Iowa also I could see here. I do quite often go to Iowa, and it could probably definitely be considered a prairie state, just because it's so flat and boring and really nothing good there, except for my family. But I'm just going to put it there because geographically I think it makes sense that those are there. And then, of course, Chicago. Freaking Chicago. It has to be in the Midwest. But it's the worst part of the Midwest by far. Indiana, again, it's like another Iowa. It could honestly be a prairie state if it wasn't divided by Illinois. Or if Illinois didn't have Chicago, then they could both be prairie states. Because I've driven through Indiana. It's one of the worst experiences ever. It's so plain. It's so boring. It's what I imagine driving through, like, Kansas or Nebraska is. It's so boring. And then Indianapolis is the only thing there. And then Michigan, of course, it has to be in the Midwest. Wisconsin, obviously, very, very Midwest. I think it's, along with Minnesota and Michigan, probably one of the most Midwestern states in the U.S., and probably is. And, yeah, I live here, and this is definitely what I like to consider it. I don't really care if this is not technically the Midwest, but this is definitely what I would consider the Midwest as a Midwesterner myself. Now, you may have noticed that I left Ohio out of the Midwest, and I think this new region that I've made, I think makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of big cities in this region, all the way from Kentucky with, like, Louisville and all of that, to Ohio with 3 major cities, Columbus with nearly 1 million, Cincinnati and Cleveland, Pennsylvania with a bunch of big cities, Virginia with, Virginia has like Richmond and stuff, D.C., Baltimore, and then Delaware as well, and then also West Virginia, which, I mean, yeah, nothing goes on in West Virginia at all. And I think it's a lot more clearly defines this area. I definitely wouldn't consider Ohio a part of the Midwest. And I think it just makes more sense because it's definitely not like the northerner states. I could see, Pennsylvania and New York and New Jersey all being in one. But I think this more is like I don't know, I think it describes this area better, and yeah, West Virginia is just kind of the only part that doesn't fit at all just because there's nothing there. Now, next up we got New England, and I think I think I should probably put in New York and New Jersey into that, but I think they are probably far enough away from New England that I could just put them in their own sub-little thing. I kind of wish that I could have put them with, like, Pennsylvania. Yeah, this is tough at this point. Okay, I think I've split it up pretty well. In the Northeast, we got New England, obviously. I mean, classic New England states. That's just what they are, and they're all, like, the same state pretty much. And then we got this little transition area from New England to, I still don't know what to call it. And it includes New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. And I think they're all pretty similar, and I think it's basically like a merging between these two, New England and the other one that I don't have a name for. Sorry if the mic keeps moving around. I don't really know why, but yeah. And I think it's like a bit of a transition. I don't think that Kentucky goes with Maine, and I don't think that New Hampshire goes without New York, and I don't think New York goes without Pennsylvania. I don't think Pennsylvania goes without Ohio, so I'm just going to kind of clump them up all in one, but also a bit of a transition because they're all different, and there are certain borders between all of them, so yeah, I think that's a good definition of whatever the heck that is. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's video episode, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that was my Midwesterner's POV on what I think the U.S.A.'s regions should be. And this is just my little perspective on what I think it should be. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see y'all next time. See ya.